I gotta wait till there's some people in here before I start speaking.
Which strives to make a positive difference in the lives of students by developing premier leadership, personal growth, and career success with agricultural education. Every day is connected with the individuals that we get to meet. Going to different conferences, we get to meet a lot of really cool teams that stay too much. It was super
Hello, keeping this wine in line.
skills for success. Begin your career in technical
27 Amendments, 1776. What's up? Yeah, I have that on my badge. See, it says that on my badge. Right there. Yeah. You can see it, but whatever. Hello, Kingpin. Michael Reed, what's up?
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our council meeting April 21st tonight. We're going to open tonight with the open prayer led by Pastor Ken Herbert, Owosso Assembly Church of God.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for men and women that are willing to serve this community. We thank you for the ones that serve on this council and other departments of city government. We pray tonight, God, that for this council you would give them wisdom and give them an understanding heart. We pray tonight, God, that the decisions that they make, Lord, we know are going to be difficult, but we pray you just guide them and help them. Help us as citizens, Lord, to support them. And even though we might at times disagree with one another, yet, Lord, we still are neighbors and we care for one another. So we ask your blessing and help upon this meeting. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This brings us to roll call. That's clerk when you're ready.
Mayor Type,
Here.
Pro Tem Haber. Here. Councilmember Fear. Here. Ludington. Here. Olson. Here. Osmer. Here. Owens.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. This brings us to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve.
Second. I have a motion to support. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. The agenda is approved. This brings us to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 7th, 2025. Support. Motion to support. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. The minutes of the regular meeting of April the 7th, 2025 are approved. This brings us to proclamations and special presentation, which we have two tonight, the first being the Arbor Day proclamation. Good. Okay, this is a proclamation which I'm very proud to do. First of all, I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, and then I'll have a few comments afterwards. This is a proclamation of the Mayor's Office of the City of Owosso, Michigan, designating April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in Owosso. Whereas in 1872, Sterling proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. A holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas decades before this, in the 1830s, Owosso was making a transition from a settlement to city thanks to the amazing vision of Alfred and Benjamin Williams. The Williams brothers joined with early settlers, Dr. and Mrs. John Barnes, in designating the city layout that would preserve a natural character and aesthetic appeal, which led them to plant many of the trees that have made our city streets so beautiful for close to 200 years, leading to the lovely arbors of trees that frame so many of our boulevards and many mature trees that stand in our yards. And whereas these trees have reduced the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut our heating and cooling costs by shading our homes, cleansed the air, produced life-giving oxygen, and provided habitat for wildlife, and at the same time increasing property values, enhancing the economic vitality of business areas, and generally adding beauty to our neighborhoods and parks. And whereas it falls to each generation to continue the stewardship that has launched by our founding families through the planting of new trees throughout our city to replace those that are lost. And whereas Owosso is proud to hold the Tree City USA designation and to be engaged once again with the citizens of Owosso to plant new trees throughout the city. Therefore, I, Robert J. Teich, Jr., Mayor of the City of Owosso, do hereby proclaim April the 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Owosso. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge our citizens to plant trees to promote the well-being of this generation and our posterity. This is proclaimed the 21st day of April, 2025. So just a little bit of history. This is the 10th year we've been recognized as a tree city by the Arbor Day Foundation. This year, our year, when we call Tree Year, starts the last Friday of every April. So our fiscal year for trees is end of April to end of April. So during that year, the tree year, we planted 28 trees. 19 trees were planted in the right-of-way locations in October. And 9 trees are being planted in our city parks. Of the 19 trees planted in the right-of-way locations in October, 15 of them were paid for by grant to Consumers Energy. We're going to be planting one of those 9 trees this Friday between 2 and 2:30 at the Grand Avenue Park, which anybody who might become would be invited. That tree, we're going to be planting a crab apple tree, and I will be there, and our assistant city manager, which I talked to her today, she has been in charge of the trees of Owosso, and so I want to thank the assistant city manager, Amy Fuller, for being the city tree person. She's done a great job 3 years in a row that she's got this whole city, so we're very proud of that and of her. You are invited to join us. I'll be there. I think the city manager has been there. Others have been there. Amy will be there. Any city council people that would like to be there during the planning. Maybe a lot of you don't even know.
Cool,
Grand
Sanjo.
Avenue Park exists, but if you take Monroe Street off of Washington and you're going east on Monroe, you go get the Grand Avenue, you go south and you just go up and you'll run into Grand Avenue Park and be on the west side. So hopefully I'll see some of you there. And congratulations to our assistant city manager. With that, our basically city manager will be giving a special presentation. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those of you that were part of the meeting where our third-party accountant came to present the plan that was sort of born out of this great discussion, this was about a month ago. That presentation really listed off all of the projects that need to be done to the city's water and sewer system. All that information was gleaned from the city's 6-year annual capital improvements plan, of which we update every year, and the council recently just updated this current fiscal year coming up. So for those of you that weren't here, we've gone through which projects need to be done. DPW Director Suhanik also took us through at a subsequent meeting what has been done to the tune of about $65 million. About a third of that was grants and forgivable loans. So very quickly, that kind of tees us up for tonight, which is a discussion, presentation born out of the fact that we heard from a lot of you, I should say council members heard from a lot of you and said, $710 in year 5 per quarter, that's just not doable for us. Council heard you, and here we are today going over some alternative options, one of which is more detailed than the other, which I did have some help from our third-party accountant, Baker Tilly, to kind of back into the numbers, and also met with individual council members to discuss how to pare down this program and maximize all of our grant and forgivable loan opportunities, of which we just had a conversation with Congressman Tom Barrett last week. We have been applying not only for congressional funding for a lot of these projects, but also the ones we have been successful with, which are state revolving loan funds, and through that program, the grants and the forgivable loans and low interest loans that they provide for us. So we're throwing everything at this, just like we have done. Congressional funding being what it is, we'll see, but those applications have been submitted, and I will be meeting with Congressman Barrett and staff this week. So with that, welcome, thank you for coming. It's definitely a much bigger and better room for us to have these larger discussions, so I do appreciate it. So like I said, we are exploring tonight some alternative options, and keep in mind, council is not here to make a decision this evening. This is for them to deliberate on these alternatives just as much as it is for you to hear them. So this is what we are all familiar with. This is the current full capital plan as presented by Baker Tilly, our third-party accountants, based on that capital improvements plan. So you can see in the first year, 2025, this is what an average bill would be. Now, all of you sitting out there, if you are city residents, your bills might not look like this. It might be less, it might be more. We do our best to try to show what the average bill would be and its effect on the average bill based on each plan. So in this case, we are assuming 18 units of usage. A unit is 748 gallons. Over a period of 1 quarter, 3 months. So 266.29 would be your quarterly bill. Now, if you used 18 units. By year 2030, this is the number that's freaking everybody out. Completely understand, $710.33 per quarter. That's a lot. That gets us to where we need to be, however, on tackling our capital improvement plan for water and sewer. And I tell you, most of this
Almost
increase is going
$3,000.
towards the water plant. Over the last 5 years, we've made a lot of progress on the sewer plant. There are still some very expensive components to get to, but the water plant also needs attention. And it's always difficult to try to keep up with rolling regulations that keep coming out of Lansing on how we need to run, maintain, and operate our water system. So on the right side there is it's not a cumulative increase, but it's a year-by-year increase. So the first year, 32.6%, 28.9%, 25%, and it slowly ticks down to just under 10. But that's over the 5 years, how we get to that $710.33 a quarter for that average bill. The other option would be to reduce that capital plan by 25%. This is a number that was just thrown out there just to see its effect on those yearly increases to your average bill. So instead of year 5 showing 710.33, we're at 590.95 in the year 2030. This would be to cut the thing in half. We take that full capital plan, chop it in half, and keep in mind that if anybody asks, or if any council members are planning to ask, we do not, for this 25 and 50% option, we do not know yet which projects would have to be cut. This would be something that staff does internally with the assistance of Director and the superintendents. So we don't have that information, but we are presenting both of these options as possibilities if council needs to visualize what its effect is on those quarterly average bills. So in this case, instead of $710 per quarter in the year 2030, we're looking at $483 per quarter in 2030 for this 50% reduction. Staff also took quite a bit of time to go through these projects and see which ones can be deferred longer. And I can tell you, deferment of projects, that's the time-honored tradition in order to save money. A lot of people out there, they're saying, just get more grants, get more grants. Yeah, we hear you, and that is a possibility. But what you're not considering, and that we know, is that every single one of these grants and forgivable loans requires us to have the cash to pay it so we can be reimbursed. That's the catch here. There is no grant program that just gives you money, gives the city money. It says, we trust you to spend it how you promise. They have their own checks and balances to go through as well. So over the last couple of weeks, staff has been going through these projects to see, well, we understand that everything's critical, and we may hear from Director Supanik and the superintendents reiterating the fact that they already shared that these projects really are critical. But we are also cognizant of the political side, of the fact that there are elected officials up here who answer to you, and they're telling us, well, we got to do something. And I really need to commend those council members who took the time to meet with me and really go through these in order to add up all of these projects in order to save on these rate increases. So what we're calling this one is the specific project deferment plan. All right. And instead of $710 per quarter in year 2030, year 5, we're looking at $554 per quarter. So it falls somewhere in between that 25% and 50% option. Okay. Now the question is, which projects are we cutting? Which projects are we deferring? For the water treatment plant, that would be some storage building and completion of a lagoon fence, just to provide some security for those line lagoons. Mechanical line sludge dewatering, that's a pretty expensive project. It's something that we don't have. It's a more active system to process lime sludge rather than the current passive system we have now, which is to pump this stuff into lagoons, let it evaporate down, distill, and then we dig it out every few years. The raw water main replacement, we have a number of wells throughout the city, and all of those wells are connected to the water plant with what we call raw water mains. They don't operate at the same PSI, the same pressure as the distribution mains that serve you. They're about 20 PSI, so they don't see a lot of wear and tear, except for the fact that they are very old and they are very large. The good news is that we haven't had many issues with them, so that was one reason we pushed that one down. The big one is going to be that water treatment plant underground reservoir. It is nearing 100 years old. We know that it has issues, and the state, because it is so old, the state doesn't even allow underground storage for water treatment plants anymore. It's all got to be above ground and standpipes or elevated towers. So that's going to be a problem, but it's $20 million. The water treatment plant river crossing main, this is just the water main that goes under the river. That's very old too. I haven't had any issues with it, thank goodness, but that's on the list. The fluoride distribution system, this was not as expensive as the other components, but we put that on there simply because with this current administration in Washington, we don't even know if we're going to be putting fluoride in the system much longer. So until that's resolved, this is going to be deferred. So the total for the water treatment plant deferment is $28.9 million. The wastewater plant, we're at $12.5 million for these three components: the secondary clarifier construction, digester demolition, and the sludge dryer. Those latter two are not currently components of the plan, but they are improvements to not only provide for safety in the form of the digester demolition, hasn't been used in decades, but it's still sitting there. Or, in the case of the sludge dryer, this is just a way for us to further de-water our wastewater sludge so that we're not paying the ever-increasing fees that we are paying at landfills. We call them tipping fees. Those tipping fees could possibly be going up by many magnitudes of order. But because this is not a current component of the plant, we are deferring that project to try to save money for the consumer. That, like I said, $12.5 million on the wastewater treatment plant side. All the rest of the projects, the street water main replacements, these are main replacements that were on the list to be done, but were deferred because they don't have a break history, which means there's not a lot of water main breaks that we have recorded in the last 25 years for these particular stretches of water main, and because of their size. The state requires 6-inch water main as the norm now, but they understand that there are a lot of 4-inch and even 2-inch out there. We are leaving some of these, which are 4-inch, but they still produce well. But mostly it's the fact that a lot of these mains listed do not have any break history, which means we're taking a gamble by keeping them in the ground. Total for the deferment on the water main portion is about 10 million. So when you add that all up, that's 66.5 million that we have gone through in our project list to defer out of that total of about 200 million. Okay, so this is where that gets us. This is where that gets us here. $554 per quarter by year 2030, year 5. A lot of times when we have these discussions, and if you come back to our next meeting, you will see this slide again. A lot of times we get the request, well, how does Owosso compare with other communities? So we took some time and went through and not only picked the ones that may be hooked up to the GLWA out of Detroit, but also we tried to concentrate on those systems that are much like Owosso's. We don't run our system for ourselves. We serve the city of Corona. We buy their water wholesale from us, do their own billing, and we also provide water for Caledonia Township and Owosso Township. Here's where we stand. The green is where we are currently, 266 a quarter. That is about where we've been since I've been here for 7 years, in that bottom half to bottom third. If we leave everybody else the same, and we assume that council will approve the full capital plan, in year 2026, that first year of increases, which I had mentioned was around 30-some%, we would be in the top third. So I don't know if this means anything to you, but there's a lot of people out there who just want to know not only what other cities are charging, but what other cities are charging that are similar to ours. Maybe not in population, but in our system makeup. So this is a good representation of that, and this takes time to compile. This was pared down from a list of about 45 communities, but we took out those ones that were frankly very, very expensive and were also plugged into GLWA out of Detroit, because that's a whole different animal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my presentation.
That takes us to public. Again, none tonight. Then brings us to our comment. We have a different format. I will go through a couple of items, but it will have to come to a motion and approval to change the format by the council before we begin. But I look at this is, and I've been on the council off and on since 2013, and this is the first pre-coming town hall meeting that I've ever been involved with. And we're kind of using this standard council meeting as a precursor to the town hall meeting that we're going to have in 2 days. And so we wanted to come up with a format that was going to be organized and handleable, because we could be here for hours to make sure that every comment is heard. And if there's questions, we're going to try to answer all the questions we possibly can when we're here without going back and getting answers and then getting back with you if we haven't gotten an answer to you during the time here or during the town hall meeting. We brought our whole team with us, our 3 supervisors on the end of the table, along with our director, Public Works, so they can answer questions in detail. So we're trying to put a format together that's going to be basically going to be handleable, compatible. So what we've done is we've come up with this card format. So we had to fill out cards if you wanted to comment. If you had a question, put your question on the back of the card. If there is for some reason that you just didn't want to fill out a card at all, but you still wanted to comment, we're going to accommodate that as well. And it'll be at the end of the comments where you raise your hand, you'd be recognized, and so forth and so on, mayor, and you state your name and address at the mic, at the podium, and you make your comments and you ask your question if you have one. Now, the other difference will be that because of the timeline, we usually have 2 opportunities to make comments at a regular meeting. At this meeting and at the first meeting in May, which will also be here on Wednesday, on the 7th of May, not on Monday, will be basically you only have 1 opportunity to comment. It'll be 4 minutes, and you only have 1 opportunity to do that. Again, we'll have the town hall meeting in 2 days, which you can also comment at that meeting. These meetings The council meetings, you can comment on anything. Town hall meeting, you comment basically on the utilities that we're having a town hall meeting for. Okay, so regular types of comments tonight, you want to comment about utilities, or whatever you want to do. My main thing, we're probably going to have a much bigger crowd than this on Wednesday, that we maintain that crowd. We control the crowd, make sure it's always my ground rules basically are to respect others' opinions. Listen and respect. That's what we're here for, to listen to everybody's opinion. No interrupting. Refrain from any personal attacks. I'm just not going to be allowing that. Again, respect. There will be no back and forth. They're going to come up, person will come up, they'll state their opinion, they'll state their question. They have their 4 minutes at this meeting, and they sit down. We're going to do it in 5 and 5s. Okay? So there'll be 5 people that comment. If there's questions, 2, 3, 4 questions of those 5 people that comment, we're going to try to answer the questions right after those 5, and then we'll do another 5. So they'll be on the screen, your names, they'll come up when your names are on the screen. There'll be 5 on A mic, 5 on B mic, and it'll just keep on going and going. So we're trying to basically control and make it constructive, the town hall meeting. So again, this is like a precursor to it in 2 days. Basically, the last thing I would ever want to do is basically remove somebody from the meeting, but there are rules that I'm going to be going by. And the rules are that any person, including council members, staff, or citizens who violates the rules of order and decorum, they may be removed from the meeting following this process. Now, you got 4, basically 4 times you're going to be, if you're removed, it'll be the 4th time I basically address you or that person that's disrupting the meeting and not making it productive for everybody else that's here. The first one, I'm just gonna, if you're out of order, I'm just gonna request for you to sit back down, and the only time that you speak, typically in a council meeting, to the council is during comment session. Okay, and then you have to be at the mic making comments. Nobody in the crowd's making comments at that time. Second time, I'm going to give a warning. Third time, basically, I'll take your speaking rights for that meeting away. And the 4th time, then I would be asking for the Sergeant of Arms to remove that person that's disrupting the meeting. So let's hope it never ever gets to that point. I've only in, let's see, for 9 years of being on the council, 2.5 years as being mayor, I've only seen 1 person ever rejected from a meeting. So hopefully we can be, again, respectful of each other, listen to each other, and have those people ask us questions that they have, and we can answer them in a constructive way. Going with that, I'm going to be looking at the council to make a motion. And basically, and this is going to be in the rules of addressing the council. And the first one would be the speakers to submit a request to speak card. All speakers that have filled out a card and that have spoken, those that did not want to fill out a card but wanted to speak will be allowed. So that will be at the end of everybody that's filled out a card. They've spoken, they made their comments, they asked their questions, we've answered their questions, and that's all said and done. I'll ask ask if anybody else in the audience that has not spoken and would like to speak, to raise their hand and address the mayor, and I'll ask you to go to the podium and state your name and address, and you'll have 4 minutes to speak. And possibly ask a question at that time. There'll be a set the time limit for both comment periods, because this is a regular comment, regular meeting, so we have 2 comment sessions, one at the beginning right now, one at the end of the meeting. And to allow the time, both comment periods to 4 minutes per speaker. Typically it's 3, 4, and 3. And this time we only have 1 time to speak, not 2, so we're making 4 minutes for every speaker to speak. I'll again allow speakers to speak only 1 time during the meeting. Speakers cannot give their unexpired time to another speaker. Each comment period shall last up to 30 minutes. Now, unless council moves to extend the period. So I'm going to get a feel of how many people I think is going to want to speak by kind of going by an average percentage at 4 minutes. And I'm going to make sure that the extension is long enough so everybody here that wants to speak can speak. So if I think that is 30 minutes, and I think we need to extend the period to an hour, even though it might only mean 30 minutes after that, we're gonna have plenty of time so everybody can speak at this council meeting. With that, I would look for any comments or any additions, and from there, end up with a motion to approve the change of rules of addressing the council at this meeting.
I make a motion to approve the change of rules for this meeting.
Thank you. I have a motion support. Any comments? This would be a roll call vote, Madam Clerk, when you are ready.
Councilmember Ludington.
Yes.
Owens.
Yes.
Pro Tem Haber.
Yes.
Councilmember Olson.
Yes.
Osmer.
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Mayor Tucker.
Yes, the changes are approved. And now, we will start with, I believe, putting the names up on, which I think are up there. Okay, so if you could come, I think there's an A and a B, if you could come up to the podium. And we'll start with number 1 on A. Thad Brewer. Thad Brewer looking for? Thad Brewer. That's it. Okay. Thad, the mic is all, you gotta go all the way back up there, and you can see it over there. Yes, right over there. That I'll just let you know that we have 4 minutes, so if you'll see that there's a timer up there. So if you think you're not getting through, you want to go, an idea how much time you got left to finish up your comments.
Okay, what I'd like to know is when you replace these sewers and water mains, if you just go cut the streets up, and as you put the water main in and the sewers in, are you just gonna run a whole patch over it? Or are you gonna rip the whole street up and redo the streets? That's what I'd like to know.
If that's what you'd like to know, okay. Do we have that question on the card?
Pardon?
Is that what does it have, do you just have the question?
Yeah, that is a question.
Okay, we'll address the questions after the first five. We'll try to answer your question, okay?
Okay, and also, what I'd like to know, I know that you sell water to the city of Corona, and I know that Corona has bought water from the city of Owosso for at least 10 years. Where has all that money went? That money could have went for fixing these water mains in the sewer. That's what I don't understand. Where's that money went?
Okay, well again, that's a question. We'll address it.
I thank you, and I'll let somebody else come up here then.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next person would be Russell Thompson. I have that right?
You know, there's something that just resonates in my head that happened close to a year ago, and it's about the galvanized water pipes. And I went in, found out my name wasn't on the list after I put it on there as soon as the water bill. And then the second year when I went up there, I was told, consider yourself very fortunate if you get it in the next 10 years. And now we're going to be raising water rates. I'm wondering, are we going to be like passed by on that increase since like we fight to get the water? I mean, if my washer's going and I flush the toilet downstairs, it takes about 20 seconds to fill an 8-ounce tumbler upstairs. So I got to wait 10 years, and I'm going to be paying basically for Cadillac when I'm getting the Volkswagen. But anyway, so that was just something that was in my head, and the people in the water department up there at City Hall, they know what I'm talking about. But you know, I don't know about you all, whether you guys got pay raises on a regular basis, but I work in the auto industry, and 14.7% of the people got 95% of all pay raises in the auto industry, and of course that was a big three. And so we got the scraps after that. And, you know, with inflation up 30%, my total pay raises, all benefits, I think only went up maybe 6%. And so, you know, being an electrician, I had a lot of money that I had extra to spend. And with all that 30%, it just keeps getting lighter and lighter. And here we go, another 166% over the next 10 years. And I'm just not sure whether, you know, I realize prices are going to go up, but should they go up that much, maybe we should follow inflation or something. But I know, you know, whoever the head guy is here, he was looking 20 years, 30 years into the future since we've had our water supply for the past 100 years. And I'm sure we've had this in the plan that in the later years, prices are going to have to go up. But like over the next 10 years, that much, that kind of hits me hard.
Thank you. Bill Byrne?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, fellow residents. I just have a few comments. I'll stay within my 4 minutes. First, on the impact. The impact obviously is very significant. It comes as a bit of a surprise, I think, to many of us. The impact is more than the cost of my individual water bill. It's the cost of businesses having to cover these expenses, the restaurants that go to, the car wash, the other businesses. And so you really need to be mindful that this impact could cause some businesses to close, could cause individuals to move, could cause people to be less reluctant to move here. So I really appreciate the hard work you're doing to try to reduce the cost, spread it over more years if you can. Second, I think that there should be some accountability. I was at a meeting just a couple of months ago where the accountant said we were doing an amazing job. We had a wonderful budget, everything was good. How did they overlook a $200 million liability? There really should be some accountability all around, and I think you need to look at it. My final point, I think I'd make is hang on, let me check my notes. For me, it's one bucket of money. I know it's not for you, but whether I pay taxes or my water bill, it's one bucket of money for me. We're a community that is struggling with a declining population every year for, I think, over 30 years. We have a higher poverty rate than others. We have a higher unemployment rate than other communities. And I appreciate the work that Mr. Henney and his team did to show that we'd be in the top third. We're not in the top third economically, and we need to keep that in mind. I think if you can find a way to reduce our property taxes on the neighbor of 10–20%, at least for me and homeowners and probably other landlords, you keep us pretty whole. So I'd ask you to look hard at that budget. It's easy for townships of our size to continue to grow and buy new fire trucks and police cars and expand and grow, and all that's very exciting. But when the population's declining and we've got these kind of costs, I think we really need to take a hard look at the budget. So that's it. I thank you again for the opportunity to get the presentation tonight and the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Weaver?
Mr. City Manager Henry, I appreciate the professionalism with which you presented the numbers tonight. You did say one thing I found very interesting was the deferment was a time-honored tradition in the city of Owosso. But there's also another time-honored tradition that has been resonating with me recently, which is every time the city wants to do something, they strap it to the backs of the individual taxpayers and they disguise it as small loans. We need to stop doing that. We need to figure out how to live within our tax base, because I have to live within my budget of my house. And we need to see maybe another alternative other than just deferments that still straps it on the back of the taxpayers. The one true question I really have is, how did you determine that 18 watt units is the average usage for a water bill? Because I've had of anywhere from 2 to 5, and I've never, if I saw 18 units, I was going to strangle one of my children. So I'm averaging somewhere between 7 and 10, and I really don't understand how 18 is an average. I also want to point out the fact that we've had 48% increase in our utility rates since year 2020. Think about that for a second. 48% since 2020. And you want to strap on another 166%, or even 150%. 110% is still even extreme. That's ridiculous. There's nobody that can stay in business doing that. So we've got to figure out how to fund this in an alternative method that does not strap our tax base with the payments. I also want you to consider the economic impact. The previous gentleman to me brought up the fact that we are a very low-income society around here. How many of these people that can't hardly afford their bills today are going to be able to afford 166% or even 100% increase? They're not going to be able to. You're going to ruin our economic situation in the city. You're also going to damage the parks. The industrial parks pay exorbitant fees for their water rates. How are we going to entice new businesses to come into this community and support it if we keep jacking our rates up 200%? So I appreciate the difficult position you're all in. I think we need to start thinking outside the box and get a little more creative in how we do this. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
really sad that all of a sudden we get hit with this, just like a bomb going on. I mean, unfortunately, I think the city council should have been dealing with this 2, 3, 4 years ago, maybe even, and make adjustments all along to try to help with the water department. But I'm retired, I'm on Social Security, and there's no way that I can afford a water bill like that at my house in the city of Owosso. And I will be one of the people that would probably be forced to move. And I really feel it's sad. I don't know why they think that there should be such a cost for an underground reservoir renewal when they simply could turn around and put in 2 above ground tanks that the state of Michigan would approve of. It's got to be less costly than doing something underground. And that's just basically what I want to say.
Thank you. I guess I'm gonna be the one here that's gonna see who's gonna try to answer what questions. When I heard that brewer want to replace water and sewer lines, will the streets be redone? And at the same time, and number 2, where did all the money from Corona go from water, sewer? Mrs. Monica, you want to address that and maybe pass that down?
Ryan, there's a switch on top of your mic there, but I'll get us started. As to the city of Quran, we've had a wholesale agreement with them for quite a long time now. That agreement is, we sell them water funneled through 2 master meters at a rate of 110%. I'm sorry, at a rate of 10% over the current usage rate. Okay, so Ryan might know the exact amount, but in the final analysis, it doesn't really amount to as much as you think. Okay, but the revenue we do get from that is just counted as general revenue in the water fund. So it's not going anywhere else. So one thing to remember is that any rates we charge for water or sewer, by law, must be spent on water or sewer projects, respectively. The only time that is not the case is when the city, by law, is required to charge an administrative fee for the Treasury Department to run the utility billing responsibilities that are required. Okay? On to the question about streets. Anytime a water main is replaced under a street, if it involves the street being torn up, that street is replaced. However, the city being as old as it is and as old as these systems are, it would cost much, much more to remove the old water main being replaced from the street and put the new one in. So we just abandon the old ones underground and run the new one. Now, in some streets, we are running out of room. Good news is, it probably won't be an issue, even in your grandchildren's generation, Mr. Mayor. But sometimes we must replace mains and we put them in the green belt. The street isn't affected. This is something we strive for when a street is in relatively good condition. That way that doesn't add the cost of having to repave the street as well. But yeah, anytime a street is anytime a street is disturbed because of one of these projects, it is replaced.
Thank you, City Manager. Think we're good? Sure. Okay. Two, Russell Thompson, are we going to be passed by on the increase? Wait 10 years for a Cadillac when he has a Volkswagen. Total pay raise is 6%, 6.1%. I think that's electrician, has a lot. Keeps getting lighter and lighter, prices are going up over 10 years. So I'm not sure what you mean by, are we going to be passed by an increase? Wait 10 years for a Cadillac. Anybody? Is that what he's talking about? Yeah, if you would, please.
So right now, the state is requiring us to replace both lead and galvanized. Now, the state deems lead the top priority. The galvanized, they're notorious for swelling and rusting on the inside, which is actually reducing your volume, not your pressure, but that's it's restricting how much comes through. So if you flush your toilet, your sink faucets run at the same time, it gets a lot skinnier for example. So that's gonna be number one priority, galvanize next. From the start of this, we have 20 years to do the entire city, and that's pretty aggressive as is with that, just because that includes identifying, planning, actually doing it, as well as trying to work it in with the other projects as well as trying to balance doing not just one area all at once and trying to spread it around as well. So if, for example, your road is being done because it's up for slate to be replaced, those ones get bumped up because we want to do the underground utilities before we do the roads, so you're not coming back in a year or two and chopping them all up. As far as timeline, I can't account for when your specific home would be addressed. Like I say, we have 20 years to do the entire community, and I'm not sure who you spoke with as far as what timelines they were thinking, but lead will be our number one priority, galvanize the second, and then take into account all of the other variables such as roads, sewers, all the other projects that we have going on. Water main replacements is another good one. So if your address is tied to one of those replacement water mains, they get addressed before that water main is replaced as well.
Bill Byrne. No questions, only comments. Fred Weaver. How did we determine the 18 units as average per household?
So we have meters that we track all of the usage, and currently the average four-person resident home, the average currently is 18 units. It's actually down from, I think it was 5 or 10 years ago, it used to be 24 units. You have to take into account that that is the average. While it may not be his household average for, I think he said 2 to 5 people, he's probably running much more conservative, watching his water use. Maybe he has low flow fixtures, maybe low flush toilet, those type of things. So that average is based on the average family in town. And keep in mind, if your toilet's running, your faucet's dripping, it adds up to a lot in a year. And so that's how that average is calculated.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's also the amount that Baker Tilly quoted us as the average. It's pretty well an industry standard for these accounting firms that help municipalities with these rate studies. 18 units is correct. Last time we did this, actually, Brian's right, it was 24. So if Mr. Weaver is conservative, which it sounds like he is, runs a strict household, yeah, that's a way to save. There's also some cost on demand charges, which doesn't really matter how much water you use. But, this stuff really does add up. You got a leaky toilet, yeah, your bill will go up. You got a leaky fixture or a leaky pipe in the basement, don't address it. Or, that's what, if you don't know it's leaking, but you know your sump pump is running more, yeah, you gotta do those investigations, because that stuff really adds up. I myself, I got a leaky faucet, I haven't addressed it yet, but, it's something I'm gonna be doing very soon. So there's all these measures you can take to conserve water. That 18 units is just for budgeting purposes, and that's what Mr. Tilly's telling us, and that's what Mr. Suhanik's experience tells us.
The good news is if he's not using 18 units, in the worst case scenario, he wouldn't be the $700 mark. My suggestion would be to take whatever your current bill is, your running average, and you can use those percentages to calculate your own household, potential bills.
Correct. The last one had no comments, or it says comments only, so we're on to our next 5. And we are starting off with Bob Gray.
Yes. My thinking is maybe we should address this like we would our own home and get a priority instead of worrying about all this other stuff. Pick your number one priority and slowly do this. If it takes 10, 15 years, I don't understand why we have to do it in 5. And a couple other questions that are just, doesn't even mean much to this, but the money from the marijuana coming in, where does that go? Can that help this situation? And any other money we could think about bringing. So that's about the couple. The other group had a lot of my questions, so thank you.
Thank you. Karen Horn.
Karen Horn, yes. I've got a unique situation. I live in the township. I pay township taxes. I have city water and township sewer. But I've always paid the extra amount for our city water. Now, anybody that lives in the township that has city water pays a different amount of money than the city people do. And I just thought everybody should know that we're not all in the same bracket here. And my husband's 88 years old. He retired from Johnson Controls. We lost our health insurance. Not your fault, not his fault either. He had 39 years in that plan. And I get a whole $42 a month from Toledo Com from the pension plan. And I was there 27 years. So not everybody has the money coming in to help us with this. But are we still gonna, even if we're in the township, do we still have to pay a higher rate? If this all goes through, what will our rate be? Have you thought about that? What will our rate in the township be? I didn't ask for city water. It was there 55 years ago when I moved in. So there's township people that are worried about this also. So just wanted you to know we're still out there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kate Lawrence.
My initial question was answered by the city manager, which had to do with grants from the state. The state of Michigan offers grants to cities to help improve their water systems. And that was answered. And so other than that, the only thing I have to say is when I bought my little house in Owosso, I could afford it. It's 950 square feet. It's not a big house. And I made sure that I would be able to afford to live in my house and pay my taxes comfortably in my old age. I am never going to get any more monies. I live on Social Security. That's it. My money isn't gonna go up. Oh, well, we did get an increase in Social Security this year in January. I got $37 every month, but that's all. So my concern is being able to afford. That water bill is higher than my house payment. Thank you.
Kate Lawrence. Nope, that was her. Sorry. Sorry, Brian. You're up.
Okay, my question is, with these bills going up, everybody most people on fixed income, low income, and stuff like that, where are we gonna get the help to pay that water bill? And is that help gonna stick with us the rest of the time that we live in Owosso? To get that water bill paid, because now we're on, like you said, low income, like retail or blue collar, or some kind of fixed income. Where is that money gonna come to give us help to pay these higher water bills, no matter which plan that you go with? That is my main concern is, I've lived in Owosso, and I bought, a little before that, in 88, and my rate has went up in that over 20-some years. And where is all that money going to get everything done? And like you said, the improvement on the roads and everything, not just the water bill, but my water bill is going up, my taxes are going up, while my income's not going up. And like I said, where are these programs that if they are out there, where are they, and how long do they last with you to help you, like say, get the water bill paid? It's gonna be more than my house payment, like she was talking about. And I think that's all I can think of right at the moment.
Thank you.
Most of my questions have already been answered with, everybody else has spoken. But one of the, I've lived in a lot of areas, like Oklahoma City, I lived there, and they had a big project that they wanted to do for downtown. And what they did was they raised the city sales tax, which allowed everybody that comes through that town and everybody, and it was in a way that was able to be done where you didn't have a 200% increase on your taxes or your water bill or something like that. It was done with, so like if Corona, Owosso, and the townships that are going to be involved in it, and they all participated in something other than just raising the water bill substantially the way that you're proposing right now. But if it was something that was shared, if you go in and buy a pop and you spend 3 extra cents on that helps compensate it. Is there any other programs that you have in mind other than just grants, deleting, deferring, or putting it on the people's water bills? Is there any other way that we can compensate, like what Bob was saying about the recreational marijuana? They already pay a substantial amount of tax to participate in it. Something where every time somebody spends $1, a couple of cents goes to it instead of, like everybody here that
I have several rental places that I'm responsible for the water bill. So if this is gonna happen, it's gonna be a substantial burden on me that I have to pass on, just like everybody else. So, and I've already had this discussion with all the renters that, that is a huge concern to them that they can't afford. So if there was another way, of helping compensate instead of just putting it on the backs of people, every month increasing their water bill. Like I said, Oklahoma City did a 2% sales tax, and then the whole city was paying for it inadvertently instead of one big chunk at a time. That's pretty much it.
So this kind of goes, about Greg along with the last speaker, Todd Schneider, about, I think Ryan can answer this one pretty good, about, how utilities are paid for and so forth, based on getting tax money from marijuana, things like that. They both address that, question. Could you explain that? I know you've told me many times, so.
So water and sewer funds are considered enterprises, which is completely different than the general fund. So for example, water and sewer, it's circular, so it's money in, which would be the revenue in, which is what comes in from your utility bills. That's the only money available to spend for expenditures, whether it be buying chemicals, paying employees' salaries, or upkeep, maintenance, or replacement of water mains, replacement of lead service lines, upgrades at the plants, equipment replacement. Unfortunately, it's illegal to use tax dollars for the water and sewer.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that when it comes to the enterprise funds and things like that, that even I had to learn about in the days.
There's a large misconception
About taxes.
Your taxes do not go to water and sewer at all. It's illegal. The only outside funding that we can get, besides loans, is going to be grants with principal forgiveness. Otherwise, revenue in, expenditures out.
It is. The first year we collected, it was 56,000. That was the year 2021. Right now, it's just up over 200,000. When the city first started collecting that, we talked to council, and that's a general fund revenue. We asked council, well, what do you want to do with that? And the consensus at the time was, remember, this was the 56,000 the first year. Consensus at the time was, you know what, it should just be counted as a general fund revenue, because what we were going through at the time was providing school resource officers. I think we were expanding our school resource officer roster to provide an officer for each school. That was negotiated with the union, because what we had to do was make them full-time, and the school paid for all of their time when they were in SRO. But after school was over in the summer, they became a full-time employee. They were a full-time employee, but we paid their summer wages. So unofficially, that's what we've been spending our marijuana, our recreational marijuana funds on. But yeah, you're right, Councilman. It's 200,000, and we're talking about a 5-year program, 200 million. A drop in the bucket doesn't even begin to describe that. Thank you. One that's already been answered about the grants. I'm not sure how to answer
to pay the water bill. You may.
So, there is the payment plan, which I know is an assistance, but, the capital area community services, has utility assistance and they have a water program, so folks who are, low-income homeowners or renters can get assistance through the, capital area community services water program.
Thank you for that information. So this is the township one, maybe some other one you can answer, Ryan or city manager. In the township, we already pay more than, for city water, we live on a fixed income. So can you explain the water rates on the township versus, myself being a resident of Owosso?
Yeah, so, both townships, both, Caledonia Charter Township as well as Owosso Charter Township, both have contracts with the city that goes back decades. And how that works is the city of Owosso administers the water side. So like, for example, we have meters inside the homes. It's all tracked via the meters, MTUs, the computers at, City Hall. And we do all the billing, sending out the mailers and everything. And so basis of the charges for the township residents is, a township resident gets double the city's water demand charge, like a city resident. They do not, however, pay any water main replacement charge to the city. And then they also pay double the usage rate. And keep in mind, additionally, they do not pay sewer charges to the city either. That's completely separate. Both townships combined have formed the utility authority, which they do their own billing.
Good. Thank you. We must be past 30 minutes, I'm thinking. Since we've had 10 times, we gotta be in that 30-minute mark now.
I'd just like to add something to what Ryan had said. Yeah, we've had these contracts with the township since the late 70s. Okay, they've been updated in minor fashion throughout that time. Since the 70s, we've been working with them on that. While the rates are double, Ryan did mention that there's a demand charge that in-city residents pay that township residents don't, because it affects it goes to help pay for our replacement of in-city water bills. However, it's important to mention, these contracts, they require the city to remit a portion of that double rate back to the township, because they're the ones that hold the licenses for their own particular water system. And they're required to expand and maintain with the money we remit back to them. The reason we do this is because they're not like Corona. We can't sell their water to them wholesale. They don't have the capacity to bill. We handle the billing, and we remit a portion of that back to the maintenance system. It's all very interconnected, and we help them quite a bit.
Thank you for that explanation, appreciate it. Are we past 30 minutes, Chief? Keep going, okay. So we will go to Eugene. Is Eugene available?
Hold on, Rob.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Snyder had a very good question, and I always like to hear perspectives from somebody who not only doesn't live in, has experience not living in Owosso, but experience not living in this state. I also lived in a state that allowed local governments to charge their own local sales tax. Michigan does not. It doesn't allow the local sales tax here in Michigan. However, what Michigan does allow is a local income tax, but that is very rare. And it's very rare because city councils alone cannot decide whether their city is charged a local income tax. It has to go to the voters. The attempt has been made many, many more times in 22 communities in the state that do charge a local income tax. I know this because I used to work for one. And in that community, we had the same discussion, but they had the same discussion. It was before I got here. There were two large industries, Clark Forklift and Eaton Corp. And together, they employed more people than lived in the city itself. Both of them went out of business within 2 years of each other. And the city of Springfield, and they had the decision, do we just dissolve and roll into Meadow Creek, cease to be a city, or do we come up with a funding solution, find the revenue? They put that question to voters said yes, and ever since then, it was the early 80s, Springfield has been maintained quite healthily financially. But they had, I believe they had a discussion back when this was going on, that, well, what do we do with these funds? They paid for their entire police and fire service with that. It ended up being mutual aid contracts with fire after about 20 years, their police department, that turned into a contract with the sheriff's department because of rising costs of those services and the subsequent pension costs. That's what really drove them out. But they're still a city because they charge that 1% income tax. They never even considered spending on water and sewer, which they do have, because of water and sewer, you're selling a commodity. It's a business fund. It's not a governmental fund. And Director Sonic is right. Don't intermix those two because they're completely different. But that just gives a little perspective. And I'm glad that Mr. Snyder asked about that. Apparently, Oklahoma allows their municipalities to charge direct sales tax. We do not.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Going to Mark, number 2, or Eugene still? Eugene left. How about Mark?
I'm going to start off with a question regarding the water that we're providing to the townships in Toronto. I have to assume their rates are going to go up the same as ours, but I'd like to confirm. And if we're selling water to Toronto at a wholesale rate, then they're getting it cheaper than what I'm paying for it, it would seem. I understand they're probably going to raise the cost of that water to pass on to the residents in the city, but it seems to me that they should be paying more for the water than what we are. Mr. Henny, the chart that you had up there, that you had the average of $266. Unfortunately, that average only affects the people that reach that are below it. The people that are above it are going to be paying a lot more. So I want to give you an example of someone who this is going to affect. There's a young woman who's a single mother, has 3 kids, has another person in the home. She works a full-time job and a part-time job and lives paycheck to paycheck. When this, and she's paying just under $400 a quarter. So hers is going to go up to about $1,000 a quarter based on that 166% increase. That's impossible. When you don't pay your water bill, what's the first thing the city does immediately? They say just shut off bills. And then they charge you a fee because your payment's going to be late. And if they do shut off the water, they're going to charge you for that. And then when they turn the water back on, they're going to charge you for that, which is just a matter of a city employee driving to a location in the city, putting their stick in the ground and turning the water back on. But I think that the late fee, the immediate shut off is a problem, along with the payment to bring it back on, because when these rates go up, there's going to be very little that people can do to make their water bill payment, along with all their other payments that they have to make. So I think that needs to be addressed as something that needs to be done. Because once you shut that water off, it's not legal for somebody to live in a house without water. And DHS is sure not going to allow a family to live in a house with kids where there's no water. This is going to be a very real problem. And what you brought up about the assistance for making water bill payments, I don't think that's very realistic. So I would, the first thing I presented was a question as far as the rates to the city and the townships. Our city has a lot of people, including myself, that are retired, they have a fixed income. Some of them, like the lady that spoke earlier on the other side of the room, live paycheck to paycheck, they don't get very much. This is gonna be so much of a burden on these people, that something else has to be done. And I understand and appreciate the effort that you're making to try to get grants. But the one thing I heard from the last town hall meeting was there was a talk about keeping this to 5 years. But not many people can buy a house and finance it in 5 years. So it's stretched out for
Sir, time is up. Greg Brand.
Most of my questions have been answered already, but, one big question I have for you guys, how hard are you working on finding other funding so you don't nick, people in Owosso? Because most of us, as people have said, can't afford that big bill. And the question I have, how many of you people up there live in Owosso and will be affected by this? You don't want to because some of you don't. But anyway, why wasn't this addressed years ago when you knew the system was failing? Why wait until now when the cost is so high from what it would have been years ago? And also, why are you waiting on replacing the lead pipelines when you know there's lead? Is this going to be another Flint water crisis? You know, I've been told that our water is not that good by more than one person who lives here in Owosso. And maybe you give us some numbers on where the water tests come, because I got a letter in the mail from you guys. I filled out the paper and turned it into you guys. It said that our home is probably contaminated by a lead-based water line. And with that being said, why does the city not give out filters instead of expecting the homeowners to buy the filters themselves? I mean, it was caused by something that has not happened or been taken care of over the years. And it's like most of the time, you sit back and wait until all of a sudden, oh crap, we got a big problem now, when it could have been a little problem, it could have been solved years ago. And also, I don't know much about ARPA funds or any of that, but could that not have been used for some of it? Because I know I sent an email, I got a reply from you folks to where there is over $5 million in the accounts for all of this. And I was told that you don't want to spend it. All but you need to save it for other things in the response. I've got it on the cell phone if anyone wants to see it. But the thing is, if we go ask for help, a person has to get help from the state or someone. If you got an account with money in it, you got a grant to get more money. So why not use the money that's there to help and try to figure out a way to get the money going? And that was the funds as of today. I mean, I've got a list here, but it's close to $6 million that are in the funds as of today. And then is this just for the water treatment plant, or is this for the lead contaminated and galvanized lines also to increase? I really think you guys could work harder and do better at coming up with a water plan. I'd like to retire in a couple of years. I lost the job I had October of 23, and I'm 3 days shy of 43 years. Because the company was failing. I finally went back to work at a decent pay February 3rd of this year. And there's a lot of people in my shoes, I'd like to retire, but if you folks do this, probably can't afford it. Or the other question is change the laws and let's put wells in our yard. go together, get well planted, and draw from that without paying you guys. And as far as the fluoride distribution, that would be a good money saver. A lot of cities are discontinuing it, so why not Owosso? Thank you.
Laura?
Good evening. Most of my questions have been answered, but I do have a few things I'd like to ask and state. Number one, why can't this be spread out over 30 years? In my house, if my engine breaks on my car, my window breaks, and then my seat tears, I do it in 3 stages. Most important, I fix the engine, then I move to my window, then the seat. Why can't this whole water system be done the same way? Next, the city of Corona, we pay money to maintain, to put the meters in, to do all these things. It taxes our system. New Lothrop is a small town. They have their own water system. Why doesn't Corona have theirs so we don't have to maintain more things? And also, the fluoride distribution, I think Mr. Henny made a comment, it's like a couple million for that. Fluoride's bad for us. Why don't we stop that immediately? Stop putting it in the water. That's gonna put health to all of us and pay less for the water. And then finally, Mr. Henny made a comment that the marijuana was like a drop in the bucket. Well, all these drops in a bucket fill up, and those drops in the bucket will help pay for this. I see on this paper that we've got $48,000 that's gonna be spent to improve the city hall. It was paid for engineering service. Why? Why can't that money be put towards it? All these little drops in a bucket add up. And I'm telling you right now, if this council and if the city agrees to raise this even 50%, this town will collapse. People cannot afford this. Taxes are outrageous. We need to do better. I've lived here my whole life. I am this close to moving, and I just built a new condo. My taxes are more than my brother paid living on Lake Fenton. How is that? We are a small community. We are not Grand Blanc. We are not Lake Fenton. So we need to do something. Thank you.
Questions, but I have some comments. This is just unacceptable. It's flat out unacceptable. It's already way too hot. For a water you can't even drink. It's not even healthy water. When we had the letter we got in the mail there a few years ago about the pathogens, I went and got a water test, 8-panel water test. My water failed on 5 panels out of 8. So how can you even charge us for it? That's my comment.
So I'll read this, not sure if I totally understand, because it's up to question mark. I would say, obviously, yes, they go up to. How much is the question mark? 10% over wholesale. Wholesale rate is cheaper than what I pay for. Not if they're a city resident. I'm not sure if Mark is a city resident. He is on Gould Street, so I'd say he's probably a city resident. Okay.
Additionally, about Corona, they actually own and maintain their own system. They just get water. That's it. So they have their own DPW, they have their own WSSN, they maintain their own water mains, their own service lines, their own metering system, their own billing system, the whole 9 yards. They just simply get water through the water mains.
Could ARPA funds be used? Well, if they haven't been used, then I believe they're used up.
You received 1.5 million in ARPA. Most of that went to the water and sewer system. Most of that went towards lead service line replacement. 1.5 million, that's it.
So 750,000 was projected into the water fund in, I think, 2011, and that was in order to keep rates low. And additionally, there was a tune of 331 or 333,000 additional funding that was put towards the lead service line to go with the $3 million Booker loan, which is principal forgiveness, to pay for lead service lines, which was the last.
On the, that's a 20-year program, correct, on the lead
Correct.
service lines?
That's
replaced.
the time cap right now, and EPA is actually trying to shorten it.
Estimated cost.
Well, it's gone up because today the current bid price is on average about $10,000 per home.
And was all these lead lines that were mandated to do by the state of Michigan, in our budget?
No, it's a non-funded mandate.
Non-funded mandate, we just gotta come up with the money.
Correct.
Well, how hard are you working on finding other funding? Working hard. Real hard. And it's ongoing daily. Go ahead.
Just shy of $21 million since 2021 alone for grants and principal forgiveness.
Right. So basically, the rates that went up 3 years ago is, based on those rates, we are able to borrow low interest bonds of up to 40-some million on that, and be able to get another 21 million in grants. So I get a raise, make more money, go to the bank, they'll loan you some money for a car. Same thing here. We got a raise for the rates. We were able to not only get the 40 million in low interest bonds, like 2% rate bonds, we were able to get 20+ million in grants. You go to that wastewater treatment plant, if you went there 3 to 4 years ago, and you went there today, you wouldn't see the same plant. And that plant was basically, about everything was needing attention. The plant, there's one item there that keeps me up at that plant. It's called the nitrogen towers. This plant was when it went in and got revamped by the government, they made it what, a biochemical type of plant.
Chemical.
What's that?
Chemical.
Chemical plant that failed. There were 13 plants in the nation that the federal government funded to a degree. Failed immediately. We had to make it a biological plant, like most plants are in wastewater treatment. There's 3 nitrogen towers out there. I think Mr. Penrod that's sitting here, that I know him very well. He knows all about wastewater treatment plants and biological bugs that go after H2S and all that kind of good stuff. But these are biological towers. They're used, they're outside, they're, 15, 20 years past their life expectancy. The thing that keeps me up, I thought they were going to be replaced a couple of years ago when this rate went up. They're $15 million, 3 of them, and they work in series, so if one goes down, all of them, they work in series. In these big towers that are outside are plastic baffles. And these baffles have tons of surface area, and the water goes down them, and bugs live on these baffles. And they treat our water. These baffles, if they come tumbling down on that tower, which very likely could happen, and I thought this could happen, I saw them the first time in 2017 and 18, plant shuts down. Plant shuts down. Can't flush the toilet. State comes in, they'll take care of the problem. And it's gonna be a lot more than 15 million to get it done. So I thought this was taken care of when we voted the increase 3 years ago. And when we voted it in, voted for it, and we approved it, I was celebrating because the towers was in the bid package that we had bid 6 months prior to this all passing or about that. So my friend, the director, Ryan Suhanek, gives me the good news, not probably within a week after that happened, not too long after. The towers were in the bid. The towers were in the bid, it was a done deal. Problem is COVID. And prices soared within 6 months. And within those 6 months, what we had in that quote that included the towers got eliminated. Quotes went up that much. No towers. They're still there. That's one of the main items that's in the wastewater treatment side of this. So we're looking at wastewater treatment. Those 3 towers need to be replaced, period. Period. And you don't get the money other than rates or grants. You don't get it from marijuana taxes and property taxes. No, that's not the way it works. Ryan, the director explained this already. So the one thing I don't want is a plant to shut down, and I don't want basically the state to come in. Period. Now, do we need to do all of it? These 6 and myself spend hours at these plants with these supervisors going over every line item, see what was needed to keep the plants running, and what maybe we could get away with and kick it down the road again. And we spent hours going over every line item with Tim, with Dave, with Tom. And we got to know every line item. So we'd have the foundation to answer questions of what was really needed in these plants to keep them running. And I'm sorry that these plants are 100 years old. The water plant's ridiculous. The water plant didn't get that all that 60 million. The water plant is 1935 vintage. The water plant is 3.5 at the most million gallons a day. And it's not, it probably can't operate at that because of the line which built up. The cheese factory, for an example, that went into St. John's, okay, looked at Owosso. We didn't have the water capacity. We didn't have the water capacity to bring a company like the cheese factory in here. Now you talk about the future of Owosso. This is the water plant. Okay, there's $400,000. You might laugh at that, but that's not a lot of money if you're in the business of engineering and design, quotations, permitting, and all that. But there's $400,000 in this 5-year plan to do a complete engineering of a new water plant. To cost it out, to get permits to make sure that that costing is pretty much correct. And this water plant can, by comparison, comparison, if you got a $3.5 million new plant, it's not a line plant, I think you can call it like an RO plant or whatever you call it, Director. The footprint's 1/10 of it, of the whole plant, 1/10. And if you need another 3.5 million gallons a day, it's like a Lego. You can buy another one just like it and attach it right to it. The plant that we have now, you cannot increase in size, period. It's 3.5 forever. 3.5 forever. So is this city gonna grow? We have to look at that. We want to get business in here. We want to be attractive with our, what we call us old timers. We know what infrastructure is. I was just explaining to Justin Horvath, when I moved here, and I went to school here, but when I bought a house here in 1981, it was a 1901 house. A 1901 house. And my wife and I were having children, and we had one income, and we had hardly any money to begin with. And for the first 13 years, we put every dime in that house. And every dime that we put in that house, and it was tens of thousands, you couldn't see one thing. My wife couldn't show off a brand new kitchen or a brand new bathroom. It was all infrastructure. You gotta build a foundation. You gotta build the foundation. But if you don't have a foundation, you can't build on it. You can't build anything. You gotta have that foundation. I think us old timers know all about that. Foundation first. Well, infrastructure, the water plant, the mains that are underneath us, most of them are cast iron. We have a very old system, and we've been passionate. You look at the DPW guys, okay, we got what, about 17, 18 DPW guys. And I call them hole diggers. You go from Mason, Gould, where Mason hits Gould, and you go up to North Street, and there's 20 water main breaks in that one line alone underneath there. People don't understand that they're out there sometimes 3 in the morning, 10 degrees below zero in the winter, digging a hole to keep everybody with water because we got all these breaks that we have in these old water lines. There's a lot of issues we're dealing with. We're dealing with old infrastructure. So all the members of this, and by the way, we all live in Owosso. We all pay. It's all affecting us. We don't work for the city. These 6 council people make $10 a meeting, and they're putting hours to volunteer. We're basically non-paid volunteers for Owosso to do all the study. And do they want to raise the rates? Absolutely not. They don't want to raise rates, but they understand what's required. So that's my speech for tonight. We've done our homework. This council has been put to task on this. And when this came to forth, and 3 brand new council people that had no experience gets hit with this, I said, this is not fair to those 3. I'm an old timer, I've got a lot of cows. I understand what's going on. But they got almost sucker punched for this, and I am proud of every one of them because they spent their time and effort to know every line item of all 3 entities, and there's 3 entities, the water plant, the wastewater treatment plant, and then of course you got all the water mains. So, they care. They care. They don't want to raise the rates. But it's the future of Owosso. It's the future. We were a rich town. We had manufacturing galore. We had families like the Hotties that had Universal Electric, that had 400 employees at that plant where Rugged Liner is right now by Bentley Park. You had Mitchell Bentley. You had families Woodards that built great jobs here, great manufacturing here. But that's old now. And if we want to bring companies into Owosso, we need this infrastructure. We need the wastewater treatment plants just about there. The water plants are going to be you're gonna be hearing from this council, or whoever's sitting here in 2 years, about a plant, a new water plant. It's needed, and if you wanna grow this company, this city, you wanna have more middle-class jobs, you're gonna need it, period. There's no discussion about that. No discussion about that. So, again, that's my speech for the night. I don't know, yeah, one more question. Oh, we just have one more to talk? I could have waited for that speech. Yes, sir.
I don't think I can say anything after that, Rob. Jerry Meyer's my name. I'm the owner of Metro Mortgage for 27 years, a federal licensed lender in our community. I'm also was 20 years as the Home Builders Executive Officer and I'm president of one of our local condominium association. And I find it harder to qualify people today for mortgages. And it's not just water. We have other areas, and I'm concerned about housing in our community. And we have an insurance crisis. You may or may not be aware of it, but I'm licensed in Michigan and Florida, and rates in Florida, housing is plummeting because of insurance rates. And we have the same problem in our state and in our community. Also, the cost of new construction is going through the roof. Back in 2005, when I was doing it, we were $105 a square foot. Now we're $250, $275, $300 a square foot. And it's harder for people to get qualified. Also, we're actually a commuter work society. You're probably aware of that, but a great number of our people that live in our Owosso community drive outside of our community. And the reason they do that because our cost of living of housing is typically less than surrounding areas. But if we're not careful, we're going to lose some of those people because the cost of commuting may start getting offset by the cost of housing here. Two other quick things. In our condominium association, we have individual water bills, and then we also have gray water kind of use, where we have to use the city water supply. We had a break in our water line, and we got a letter from the city and said we're hemorrhaging about 50 gallons an hour. And we didn't get a call from the city, but we got a letter, so we had about a $5,000 water bill. And we used to have the ability to go online and monitor that after that. But I think I got a letter that said that's been taken away from us. So we had trouble monitoring our water usage because unless there's some alternative for that, I would be appreciated if somebody could address that. Because I think everybody wants to conserve water. So we'd like to see maybe a two-tier system of water that goes through the sewer system and water that doesn't. And if the council would consider that, I think that would not be double taxing people in our association around fixed income. And the very last thing I have is I really like the ideas of alternatives, such as additional bonding, such as exploring the city income tax. I'm not on fixed income. I can probably afford to pay it, and I'd like to pay my fair share, and I hate to penalize people that are on fixed income. And maybe other ways to deal with it, like a city tax or other bonding issues, may be more fair to those that are fixed income. Thank you.
Director, you want to answer Jerry's question regarding the being able to monitor water usage for?
Yeah, it was discontinued. It was the water portal. It was, the price was going up 5 years, or 5% per year. The last quote we had was almost 24,000. And additionally, the usage rate was less than 4% of the residents. And so it was not, sounds like Jeremy was using it, but he was one of the very, very few. In that flyer, there was a handful list of alternative options. They make off-the-shelf products, they make Wi-Fi detectors. There is some more advanced options where you can actually install them into the water line itself. itself to track the usage. Additionally, you can put his own meter on. There you can reach out to a plumber to get some other custom options, but there are alternatives, but the water portal was discontinued for lack of use and price going up. It was a cost savings method.
So is there a way for Jerry to basically check his water usage by going online? No? Or just calling the
If
city?
he calls the front desk, they definitely can check it by the hour. As far as online, it's gonna be old data.
Yeah. I know that if you go to the secretaries right there at the city hall, Jerry, you have to actually go there. And they can bring it right up and see right where you're at. Anytime. Oh, bonding? Yes. I can't hear you.
Test.
There you go.
The way that we're doing it through the state revolving fund, we are considered disadvantaged status, both on the clean water and drinking water side. It's been averaging right around 2%. We've had it as low as 1.875%. And the highest that we had was back in 2021, it was 2.125%, which is significantly lower than if you were to bond out at the local banks.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers at this point in time? Behind me? No? Are we done?
We got some out here. We didn't fill out the cards.
Are all the cards done? All done? Ms. Rankin?
I'm Yankee, French Queen News Group. I was asked to go up the plants and do videos on them. 3 months ago, I was just like everyone sitting in here. I said, absolutely not. We're not going to spend any more money. This is BS. I went to the plants and I did 4 videos. They're up on YouTube. I'm not going to talk to you about money. I'm just going to talk to you about what we have. 25 years ago, this should have been taken care of. It wasn't. It should have been taken care of 15 years ago, and 10 years ago, and 5 years ago. And that can has been kicked down the road so far that our director told the city council that they could be prosecuted by the government if they don't get this taken care of. If you go on Google and check on Owosso's water, Flint has better water than Owosso. Now, here's what you need to know. It's not because of the water in the ground. It's about the tank that they're talking about not fixing. You're drinking pool water. When you go to the water plant and look at it, there's this big tank that's 100 years old. They can't even look inside. Because if they look inside, it's going to stir up the sediment and that's going to come into your water. It is leaking. It's right next to the river. It's been leaking for years and years and years and years. This water is clean from the ground. Everything is done with it. It's put in this tank, and then it gets contaminated, and it goes back into the plant. They have to put bleach in your water because of this. I don't care about I'm sorry, you guys have to deal about the cost. I'm just dealing with, right now, what you are drinking is nothing more than like Holman Pool's water. And they're gonna keep it going, because as they said, they don't wanna spend 20 million more. So, because they don't wanna spend this 20 million more, that tank that's in the ground is still gonna take the polluted water. They're gonna keep dumping chlorine bleach into it, and they're shipping it to you. Is it safe? As I was told by the city, it is safe, because the state says if you pour in enough chlorine bleach, it's going to kill everything in the water, and it's okay. You're just drinking bleach. So, ladies and gentlemen, something's got to be done. Again, I'm not talking to you about the cost. That's something you guys got to deal with. But all I'm telling you is, I did 4 videos, and I couldn't sleep. at the tank at the sewer is ready to fall, and when that falls, when it falls, we're done. At the water treatment, at the water filtration, you're drinking pool water, and that's something you have to decide. Spend 20 million more, or keep drinking pool water. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. Thank you.
Dave here. Dave, I'd like you to comment again. You and I have talked about this a lot, about the underground water tank and the how that all works and the quality of water that goes to the city residents.
Just to address the reservoir and the filtration plant. Many of you have seen what happens when there's a water main break. The construction and repair of that takes place while it's under pressure. And that pressure keeps all the contaminants out of that pipe while they're repairing it. There's a similar thing taking place with the reservoir. The last time the reservoir was rehabilitated was back in the 1990s, so 35 years. They patched some cracks and took care of it and addressed some issues with it then. And while we're not saying that that reservoir is 100% sealed, we do keep the level of that reservoir high. Doing that creates pressure in the reservoir, and no water, no groundwater, no river water can come into that reservoir, because just like that water main that's being repaired, it's under pressure by the elevation of the water in it. So there is no issue as we operate it with the quality of water in that reservoir. Does it need work? Yes. Does it need to be replaced? Yes. But the quality of water meets all the standards that the state and the EPA has for drinking water, and the amount of disinfectant that's used is minimal in comparison to what we could put in by the state under the guidelines. So we are not over-chlorinating the water. We are making sure that there are no contaminants in the water, and it is drinkable. So the minimum requirement for chlorine is 0.2 milligrams per liter. And we have to maintain that level at the furthest point in the entire system. So that means, because it's going through all the pipes, that you have to raise it up higher in order to get that 0.2 in everyone's home. So currently we're averaging about 1.2 milligrams per liter at the plant. By the time it reaches your residence, that dissipates generally down to somewhere around 0.5 to 0.2. Thank you.
Appreciate that. We're gonna in the comments, the first round of comments, we'll have another set of comments at the end of the meeting. If anybody has a comment, and only again, it's one comment per person tonight. So we'll continue comments at the last comment session. We're gonna take a 15-minute break, and we'll continue the meeting in 15 minutes from now, which would be, let's make it 45. 8:48. Thank you.
Yeah.
you guys for a little walk. So now I can actually talk to you guys now that I'm outside. Oh, there I am. What's up, y'all? So what do you think of the Owosso City Council meeting? They're holding it at the Owosso High School. Seems a lot of the people are leaving right now. Anyway, any symbols now? What's up? The only symbolism is the kind of the same thing as what the Spartans have right there. It's the only thing right there. So yeah, I just figured I'd come out here and smoke a cigarette while I had a chance. I'm probably going to be here another hour and a half at least. And if you get on the Owosso City Council Facebook page, there's a lot of people really pissed off and venting on there. I'm surprised we haven't heard any of that. The wind is killing the audio. So here, let me try and cover that up. So is that a little bit better? That would be funny when there's silence. Just rip a big old fart. That would be hilarious. As long as somebody else is doing it, I don't want to be the one to do it. But yeah, this town's got a lot of potential. It's a beautiful town for sure. But they've been neglecting their water system for the last 75 years. Just keep kicking the can down the road, and now they've fucked themselves. Pardon my French, but they really have. Now the system's so old that, you heard them, they could face criminal charges for allowing it to go on for so long. You're good, TR. The crazy thing about that fluoride, there was reasons behind them putting it in there, and now that, you know, like in Flint, they stopped using the fluoride, and that just made the lead pipes leach the lead that much more into the water. So they're kind of between a rock and a hard place. If they don't keep putting that fluoride in until all the lead pipes are gone, they're poisoning the citizens that have the lead pipes. It's kind of crazy. Because that's how the whole Flint water crisis started. They stopped using the fluoride. And then all the lead pipes started leaching lead into the system. Well, they can replace the tank. That's part of the reason why they want to jack up the water bill so much. Because they want to replace the tank, not just fix it. Like I said, the whole system is like literally over 100 years old. And there's been very minimal upkeep, just enough to keep it going, basically. They've been using bubble gum and duct tape, in other words, for the last 100 years. Well, I'm hoping in a few months, Jeff, that can happen. But we'll see. Maybe in July I can get Spanky to come out. But no guarantees yet. Some certain cards have to fall. Let me put it that way. Yeah, if the city wanted money for guns, and we were still under Biden rule, hell, we'd have all kinds of money. I mean, as far as the water system goes, it's always been the citizens that foot the bill for it. But they've held off so long that the bill has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. They should have been taking care of it along the way, and they've just kept putting it off. So they've compounded their problem and multiplied the price because everything's more expensive now, especially after that, pandemic thing. So I had to go out to the public sidewalk out there in order to smoke a cigarette because you can't smoke on school property. Now my eyes are watering from standing in that wind. Look like I've been crying. All right, now you guys will be able to hear me better. Well, fuck your feelings. It's not the current administration that created this issue. Like I said, it's been going on for 100 years. It's the current administration that has to deal with the garbage from the previous administrations for the last 100 years. That's where the problem lies. Yeah, there's a steady breeze out there of a minimum of like 20 miles an hour. It's crazy today. Been that way all day long. Ugh. Yeah, it's come to the end of the life cycle of that water plant. They can't put it off anymore. It's impossible to put it off anymore. So now this administration has to deal with the shit from everybody else. It's kind of weird that the big, fake news organizations all already left before most of the public comment happened. I think I'm the only one in here with a camera now. Yeah, not surprised at all. Fuck your feelings. But this huge, I should have given you guys a shot of this before everybody left, but like, I'd say probably 75% of the seats in here were taken when this meeting started. There was a lot of residents here. I was kind of impressed by the turnout, to be honest with you. I'm gonna go set you guys back at my seat, and I need to go talk to one of the officers that's here because he had a question for me about cameras that I just thought of an idea about. So I'm gonna set you guys down and walk over there and talk to him.
Did you talk to Eric? Yeah, they didn't even see it, like I said. It happened right when everybody started moving.
What's up? Nobody cares. That's true, TR. It happens everywhere. They just keep kicking that can down the road. Yeah, they're gonna have another meeting on Wednesday, so I'll try and get that live streaming too. That's if I can make it to that one. I have some appointments on Wednesday, so hopefully I can make it to that one. Oh, the public's pissed. Like I said, go on the Owosso, Michigan City Council Facebook and look at all the comments on there.
Hey, Mike, I saw you earlier. Good to see you, man. Boys are doing good.
Hey, Rich Cabasa, what's up, brother? If only I could frame it vertically. Oh, okay, we're back.
We'll get this meeting started again, and we'll continue, or not continue, but we'll begin with any council comments at this point in time. Do we have any council comments?
You can't switch the aspect ratio
Seeing none, I'll
anymore.
give the floor to the Director Ryan Suhanik to clarify one thing he'd like to clarify from a previous comment.
Test. It was brought to my attention that my comments about using the general fund money for water and sewer may not have been clear enough. What I was intending to say was that you can't simply straight allocate the general fund money to water and sewer. You can do an interdepartmental loan so that the money from the general fund is used to pay for water sewer projects. However, that said loan is required to be paid back. Anything to add, Mr. Henry? Or is that good? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. This now brings us to the consent agenda. I'd be looking for a motion. I I have a motion and a support. This would be a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, when you are ready.
Pro Tem Haber,
Yes.
Councilmember Fear,
Yes.
Owens,
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Ludington.
Yes.
Mayor Kite.
Yes, the consent agenda is approved. This brings us to items of business, in which we have 4 tonight. The first being the ordinance adoption bonding for the DWSRF financing project numbers 7880-01. And at this point, I would give it started out with the city manager. He has any comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This DWRF bond-funded project 7880-01 authorizes a maximum bond principal of $11,620,000. Of that, $11,161,000 would be purchased by the state in the form of a low-interest bond. 1.8, a little over 1.8 would be loan forgiveness, and 459,000 would be a grant. So 2.3 million of this project will be funded by loan forgiveness and grants. This will replace water mains on the following streets: Olmsted, Harding, Hanover, Grace Young, and Nafis. This will also pay for lead service line replacements for non-compliant water service lines in the city. This will also pay for a water treatment plant project. We need to move the electrical systems around the plant to comply with state regulations. And it will also remove and replace building and piping for local wells 1 and Palmer well 2. This will also abandon Palmer well 1 and remove that well site building. That, Eric McLaughlin is here this evening. Mr. Mayor, if you would like any more detail.
Yes. Eric, thank you for coming.
The council and the administration, thanks for having me here once again to talk about bond authorizing ordinance. It's very similar to the ones that you've seen in past years. This is the second of 2 formal actions that the council's asked to take in the process of issuing bonds. The first one, as you may recall, was in February to authorize publication of a notice of intent. That notice of intent to issue bonds was published. The 45-day referendum period has run, which brings us here to tonight with the bond authorizing resolution in front of you. The bond authorizing ordinance in front of you. The ordinance authorizes the issuance of bonds and the sale of those bonds to the Michigan Finance Authority through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Program at low 2% interest rate is what is expected. The ordinance pledges the net revenues of the system to the repayment of the bonds, and it confirms the statutory lien in favor of that repayment structure. That statutory lien has been in place for many years through the city's series of water bond issuances. And then it also delegates the necessary authority to the city manager, the finance director, public utilities director, and the mayor to take all the actions needed and sign all the necessary documents in order to complete the sale of bonds to the Michigan Finance Authority. Are there any questions at this time?
Any questions, council? Seeing none, thank you very much, Eric, as usual.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. All right, any comments from the council on items of business number 1?
Make a motion to approve ordinance adoption of bonding for DWSRF financing project number 7880-01.
Support. I have a motion of support. This will be a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, when you are ready.
Pro Tem Haber,
Yes.
Councilmember Owens,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Ludington.
Yes.
Osmer. Yes. Mayor Kite.
Yes, the ordinance adoption bonding for DWSRF financing project number 7880-01 is approved. This brings us to contract approvals. I'd be looking for a motion to allow Councilman Ludington to abstain from the meeting at this time. I have a motion here. Do you second? Okay, I have a motion. I believe this would be a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ludington. Osmer. Yes. Pro Tem Haber.
Yes.
Councilmember Fear.
Yes.
Owens.
Yes.
Mayor Teich.
Yes, the motion to allow Councilman Wellington to abstain from the meeting is approved. I'd be now looking for a motion to acknowledge pecuniary interest of a sitting council member and to consider approving of contracts with Ludington Electric in the amount of $1,275 for the month of March of 2025.
I make a motion to approve the contract for Ludington Electric and acknowledge the pecuniary interest.
I have a motion support. This would be a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Councilmember Osmer. Yes. Pro Tem Haber.
Yes.
Councilmember Fear.
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Owens.
Yes.
Mayor Teich.
Yes, the contract approvals for Ludington Electric are approved. This brings us to item 7O. We would like to have Councilman Ludington to rejoin us. This now brings us to items of business number 3, interdepartmental loan, Brownfield District number 23. And again, we'll start it out with the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution approves a recommendation from the Brownfield Authority for BRA District 23, the plan for Woodland Trails, Washington Park to build those homes. The amount of the interdepartmental loan will be $172,500 at a rate of 1% APR to be repaid over the term of the project. Annual payments are due in April after tax bills have been paid. This is all subject to tax increment financing. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. Any city or any council comments on item number 3? None, I'd be looking for a motion. I have a motion to support. This would be a roll call vote, and then clerk when you are ready.
Councilmember Fear. Yes. Osmer. Yes. Owens.
Yes.
Pro Tem Haber.
Yes.
Councilmember Ludington. Yes. Olson. Yes. Mayor Teich.
Yes, interdepartmental loan, Brownfield District number 23 is approved. This brings us to items of business number 4, closed session. Consider holding a closed session at the conclusion of the second session of council comments for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining negotiations. Motion?
Support.
A motion support. And clerk, when you are ready.
Councilmember Owens.
Yes.
Olson. Yes. Pro Tem Haber.
Yes.
Councilmember Fear.
Yes.
Ludington. Yes. Osmer. Yes. Mayor Teich.
Yes, the closed session is approved. This brings us to the second and last citizen comments for the night, which if you haven't spoken at this point in time, if you wish to address the council, you'll have 4 minutes. Just raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you and then come to the podium and state your name and address. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I am at 1607 Young Street. I just have a question regarding the estimates for cost of repair for our water. Does that have any material escalation, labor escalation, any like thought lot of volatility of the market and how those prices are likely to increase even more over the next 5 years. So, cause like I know at my job, our estimates for what things are gonna cost are good for 30 days. So you're making an assumption that things are gonna stay steady. Is it at inflation? Are we going to have the same conversation in 3 years where it's expected to increase even further to make up for whatever is not included in the estimate or what was not included?
That's a good question. Yes, there's been a, basically, that has been considered. I'll let either the city manager or the director answer that question, but yes, that has been taken into consideration, most definitely. Who would like to tackle that one?
I can. Okay. So to answer your question about the inflation, yes, it has been calculated in. However, it's been estimated in. So there's no guarantees to what the actual number will end up being. The same thing is considered with bid pricing. So, you know, so the good news is that we have a wide variety of engineers and they use their current numbers for bids all over the country to utilize to get these base bid prices. And then they add in not only an inflationary percentage, they also add in a construction index percentage. However, as far as predicting the future, that I can't do. So we do our best to project for it, and that's exactly what these are, is they're our best projections.
Okay, so there is a contingency built into it?
Say that again.
A contingency on costs built in?
You went for inflation and construction index, yes.
Do you know roughly what that is estimated at?
That part I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say, for some reason, 5% sticking around my head, but I don't know for sure that that's what it is per year.
I believe as far as now, 5% is incredibly low with the way that we're trending in construction as an industry. So that I think is something that also needs to be taken into consideration when you're coming up with these is likely the cost that you're saying today is going to be much more for these plans and these projects that are built out in 5 years. So.
Yeah, and don't quote me on the 5%. I think that's what it is, but I know we have engineers that come up with these projections as well as CPAs that work on their calculations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Ann Eno, 189 Mavis. I have a few questions. I mean, you reiterated that it had to be a loan from the general funds, it had to be paid back. Before you said that, was before the break, you said it was illegal. So I took the time to kind of research a little bit of stuff, and I took the time to contact our representative, Brian Bull, and he was talking with me in regards to it. And from everything that we can find, general funds don't necessarily need to be presented as a loan to be used for a water system. So there would be a lot of options. I know the city tax can't be used, or the sales tax supposedly, but the marijuana question still sits. And at the very least, if you're not going to use it for the appropriations of the building the system, then why not put it in the general fund and allow that to be taking down the dollar amount that each person has to pay for their water, appropriating it that way in the general fund, so to speak, instead of just taking it and saying, oh, can't be done, or it's a loan, it's got to be paid back. Because according to what myself and our representative have found, that's not true. So let's see.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding her totally. Do you understand the question, Ryan?
I mean, I stand on what I said about, you can't directly allocate it, you can do an interfund loan, but you can't just take general fund monies and just straight say, all right,
you gotta pay it back.
Correct.
Is that your rule? I mean, for the council, is that the council's rule, or is that the state of Michigan?
There's no council rule. This is basically, we don't make the rules when it comes to that. It's basically, I would say mandated right from the state and how
City Manager Henny, is that state law?
My understanding is you cannot use water and sewer funds to pay for general fund activities, police and fire.
No, you
elections,
can't do that. That's,
Hold on.
you're correct on that.
I'm getting to the other part though, and that is, it is not a good idea to use it the other way around.
So it's just not a good idea.
It is not illegal.
Right.
To use general fund dollars to pay for water and sewer. It is not illegal. No.
And it don't have to be legal. Okay, that was my question, Ethan, thank you very much. So, possibly considering it for at least offsetting the people's prices that they have to pay would be a wonderful way to allocate those funds. But that is your choice. It's not illegal and it is something that can be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Here's a thing. Go ahead, raid the general fund. It'll pay for about 5% of that too. Yeah. It just gives you some perspective.
Okay. Any further comments? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Kurt Graham, and 310 North Washington. I'm the president of First Congregational Church Council, and on their behalf, there Water. I just want to thank this council for all the due diligence you're doing in this issue. It's been kicked the can down the road, I guess, for decades, but that's mainly due to loss of tax base, mainly manufacturing jobs. I worked in Flint for years, and I was there when the water crisis hit. I know what manufacturing jobs did. It's a long-term investment. It's a long-term investment in people and pensions. As they went away, cities and little towns like Owosso have struggled to balance the budget, and then whatever's left over, we can use to fix our infrastructure. This is going on all over the country. We're a poor county, and we are very conservative, but I've watched. We try to cut our way into prosperity, and we are not looking where the money is going. A little math, and you can look it up. It takes $800,000 at a minimum to be in the 1%. 800 is a minimum. There are 1.5 million of those people in this country. That's 30,000 in this state. That is a 1%. You do the math, it's 30,000 times 800,000 is $24 billion per state. You raise their taxes by just 1 decimal point, 10%. That's $2.4 billion in this state taxing. That's at a minimum of the 1%. We're not looking at the obvious. I know that can't be solved at the council level, the city level, little town level, but we all want to be conservatives, but really, we don't have much to conserve. We can't even pay our water bills, our heating bills, because our incomes aren't keeping up. Building costs are going up. I don't see most of our counties not driving building costs up. But follow the money. These folks are doing the best they can, and they've been struggling because our tax base is going down. Either we bring back manufacturing, which is a hard thing to do. It takes decades. It's been going away for decades, and but in the meantime, you got to tax where the money is, and do the math. It's $2.4 billion could be done if we could raise a 10% tax on the 1% in this state, and it would solve a lot of problems. But that's my comment, and I do thank every one of you for your job. Well done. You're obviously working at it, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Further comments?
Richard Bruner,
live on 719 Queen Street. Need some clarification as to what it's gonna cost me to get the lead service and galvanized lines replaced to my house. I've been told by a DPW worker that you're only gonna go to about halfway up to my house, and that I have to have a licensed plumber finish the job and come into my house. What's the standard and what do I gotta do?
Is that's your only question?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to address that, or Tom want to address that? Tom?
So first of all, it depends on what your material types are. So if you have lead or galvanized from the water main to your curb stop, that will have to be changed out. But then whether it goes into the house or not depends on what the material type is from your curb stop into your home. So if you have copper or PEX from the curb stop into your home, that wouldn't be replaced. If you have lead or galvanized both on the city side, so from the water main to the curb stop, as well as on the private side, which is from the curb stop to the house, then the whole line would be replaced, and it would be approximately 18 inches into the home to the corner horn, which is where the meter is for most standard setups. And then that corner horn is what hooks into the rest of your private plumbing. So if the rest of your private plumbing, I'm not sure if that's what you're speaking of throughout the house, is galvanized, or if you're speaking just simply going into the home, it's covered from the water main into the home for the first 18 inches to the corner horn to the meter.
I have galvanized from the coming into the house. So who has to do it?
When you say coming into the house, do you mean like the service line itself?
From the curb coming into the house, it's galvanized.
That would be, as long as you're able to wait, because it's a 20-year project, that's something the city would handle with it, the city contractor.
I was also told that I'm scheduled to have mine done in 25.
That I cannot comment on without I don't have a list in front of me.
So what, if
How
I
would
can't
he
wait?
find that out?
He could reach out to engineering, and they could give him the most up-to-date list.
If you would, to find the date out when they would do that, go to the city hall, go to the engineering department, it's on the first floor, and they should be able to tell you.
I keep getting letters that saying they're going to be doing it.
I would do it right face to face, just go right up to the city hall and ask.
Okay.
And if you have any issues, I'm usually in the basement in the mayor's office.
So does the city brings it into my house?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And what about the master plumber, licensed master plumber portion?
We handle that as well, as far as the connection. It's all done by the contractor through our bidding.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Spooner. I live at 1401 Nelson Street. I just got a few questions here. You said it's a 5-year plan. One lady asked a question, why can't it be stretched out? I don't remember you addressing that. And in 2031, what are we looking at for rates then? After that, your 5-year plan. And what happens to the people who cannot afford this? What happens to the people who are going to be forced into multi-family homes? People that may look to crime, they can't afford it, they don't have a place to live. If you thought about any of that, there's going to be a measure of that if these rates go that high. was the projected increases in.
So basically, you're saying, does everybody pay $250 a quarter? Is that one of your questions?
Yeah, because everybody, is that the, you're saying that's the average?
That's the average.
Cubic foot?
That's, basically, they're saying 18 is the average. That's basically 200 and whatever it is. That's the average. Now, someone might pay, I talked to a lady that lives next to me, she only uses 7. So hers is 140. Okay, so it is an average, number one. Number two, you asked if we ever think about people that can't pay, or this or that. Well, we are human beings, and yes, we do think about that. But we also are we have to look at both sides and try to be as fair as possible. And again, we need, the infrastructure is just gonna keep on working for the next 100 years, not making some of these big improvements that cost a lot of money, like those nitrogen towers I talked about. That's 15 million. Shut it down, you're not flushing the toilet. I'd rather, the whole city not flushing toilets isn't a good thing. So we do think about it. And this council, I have to say again, we all are doing something that needs to be done. It's a tough thing to do. Councils don't like to increase utilities. They don't like it. But the thing is, it's to a point now, and I said how old these plants are, that these things that have come to us through the supervisors, the directors, the city manager, the state. This is something that just didn't happen. This is something that they've been working on for years, and so they come up with, this is what needs to be done in a 5-year plan to try to spread it out. Can you spread it out farther? We looked at every single line item and we said, what can be maybe eliminated? That's one of the proposals that takes 33% off the original ask from the Department of Public Works. 33%, we went through every line item. Should it all be replaced? Absolutely. It all should be replaced. Can we possibly do basically 67% of it and sleep at night? Yeah, that's an option we're going to look at. But absolutely, we're all citizens here in Owosso. We don't work for the city, like I said. We care, and we care for the city, and the city needs to make sure that we have safe water, and we have a good wastewater treatment plant, and good utilities underneath our streets. And so, yeah.
5 years is the max.
Well, the thing is, you have to look at everything. You kick it down the road, that's gonna need to be done again. And one of the complaints is, well, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? It only costs 30–40% of what it's costing now. Why are you doing it now? And then all of a sudden, we say, well, let's stretch it to 10 years. Well, why didn't you do it in 5 years? Because now, in the last 6 to 10 years, it's costing us double the money. It's a non-win situation. And it's going to need to be done sooner or later. And now it's sooner, is what we see it as. So we've taken a tough task on this council. And it's for the pay grade. Well, you better not be doing it for the pay grade. You better be doing it for the love of the city. And what my parents would call it is tough love sometimes. And I don't like raising the rates either. I was talking to one of the city council members here, and this person uses a lot of water. And it could mean to her in 2030, $1,700 a quarter, one of these council. But they're still willing, they know the need. So, all I know is that we now have 4 that we're looking at, 4 or 5-year plans. We have to make a decision, and we're gonna make hopefully the best decision for both sides in the end.
Thank you.
You bet. Further comments? No, you only can do one. Sorry. No, only one, but in 2 days you can come back. All right? Can you please, you need to say your name and address.
My name is Lynette Suggs, and I live at 1012 Bryant Street. I've lived in the city of Owosso for 25 years.
Okay.
You raise the rates whenever you feel like raising the rates.
What'd you say?
You change from monthly to quarterly. You don't let us pay online because, well, unless we want to pay online, which is absolutely ridiculous. I have to pay an assessment when you tore up my road to replace my road, but you didn't replace any water lines when my road was tore up. So if you replace my water lines, you're gonna have to tear my road up again, which I'm still paying for. So I don't understand. And I don't understand how a lot of numbers were thrown around tonight. And there was all this money in this pool, and now there's no money left. Well, is there an audit to tell us where all these funds went? And I heard a whole lot of excuses about how we should have done it, we could have done it, we probably should have done it. Why now you want to do it in 5 years and bankrupt the people that are on a fixed income? Because none of you, I can almost guarantee that none of you are on a fixed income. And none of you make less than $50,000. So all of you can afford this. I just want you to read the room when all these people were here with all their concerns. Just read the room. I know something has to be done, but you need to figure out a way to do it without bankrupting everyone. Because if you don't have taxpayers here to pay the water bills, Owosso won't be here. And from what I heard, a lot of people are gonna have to leave or not pay their water bill. So I just hope you figure something out. I don't envy you for having to make this decision. And you keep saying, oh, we care about Owosso, we care about Owosso. But if you all cared about Owosso, you would have fixed this problem a long time ago. So just read the room, figure something out. Because most of us in the city of Owosso are not gonna be able to afford these rates. You keep inching them up, but when I saw those numbers on the screen, that's like a lot of people said, that's not my house payment. I was looking forward to having my house paid off in 2 years. Now my house payment's gonna have to go to pay my water, or else I'm gonna have to move. Just read the room.
Thank you. Further comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for council comments. Seeing none, we will now go into what we approved in item number 4, business. Item number 4, closed session. We will return after closed session to approve some minutes and whatever we need to do from the closed session.
Good, I'm not gonna come back after the closed session, so we're out of here.
you.
So,
All right, guys, I'm killing this. Catch you on the next one.